Awesome. So we're super excited about the Agent Bricks. That's our last big announcement for today. We do have lots of big announcements in data analytics. There's a whole new category of things that we're going to release tomorrow, so please make sure to show up. But now I'm really, really excited for the man who needs no introduction. It's a Wall Street titan and one of the absolute most impressive CEOs that I've had the pleasure to meet, running a very large 300,000 person organization in a very regulated space. Please give a round of applause for Jamie Dimon, Chairman and CEO of JP Morgan Chase.
What a crowd.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow. My God.
Yeah, it's a big audience, and it's filled all the way into the back, so but they can see us on the cameras in the back. So thank you for doing this. Super excited to have you here.
Ali, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, folks. I look forward to this.
So I'm curious. You guys have a whopping $18 billion budget that you spend on IT every year. I'm super curious. What are the biggest priorities with that?
So JP Morgan Chase, we operate in 100 countries around the world, and we have 30 or 40 data centers around the world. It's constantly upgrading technology. Your data centers, your networks, cyber, and of course the world you guys are in is I've never seen somebody move quite this quickly in technology. But in every part of the company, the corporate center does networks, cyber, policy, stuff like that, but we have 55,000 programmers. So every part of the company has their own devoted programs, credit card, sales and trading, movement of money, which you guys use some of your product on, at a very detailed level. And whenever we meet, anytime with reviews, we go through what people's technology and AI projects are, to make sure we're trying to do the right job for our clients.
That's awesome. Curious, so obviously of that $18 billion, AI has got to be a big priority.
Yeah.
Curious, what's the aim, what's the goal, what are the biggest things that you guys want to accomplish with AI, and how do you think about it in general?
Yeah, so we've always been big data. I mean, my whole life, when you're in our business, for the risk you bear, trading, we move $10 trillion a day. We buy and sell 3 trillion of securities every day. And in 2012, we first used Palantir. And I remember sitting down with the Palantir people and going through this AI thing, saying, holy Christ, this is unbelievable. So we, right after that, started our own department. And we're probably one of the few companies, and then in 2014, and maybe 7 years ago, we hired a woman called Manuela Velosa, who ran machine learning at Carnegie Mellon. We have 200 people in a research group alone that does that for us. We now spend about $2 billion on AI. We have something like 600 actual in-use cases. Some are really important, some are more minor. That number will probably double next year, maybe triple. It'll just keep on growing. I just saw the demonstration of the watermelon cucumber thing. We'll have hundreds of those, and hundreds of agents. And we're just starting to use agents. And we took AI/data out of technology. So we're probably one of the few companies that said it's too important, and technology does a great job, and obviously they're deep partners, and all of them. Yeah. But we put it at the management table. So the woman running AI and data now reports to me and our president, so that we can elevate it, and that we spend much more time thinking about what are we doing to accelerate it? Are we doing enough? Are we doing it right? As you know, we test a lot of things. We work with a lot of people in the Valley. It will change everything. We don't have our head in the sand. There will be no job, no process, no function, nothing that takes place that won't be affected by it, mostly for the positive. There will be job issues, some job losses. And the other part, which is I think the hardest part, is getting your own people. I'm not talking about me or even the tech people, but getting all the people who run these businesses to understand the power of it. So they're saying, hey, if you can do that, I can do this. And so they come up with intelligent projects to do.
I'm curious, you said this, that you took it out of the org.
Yeah.
There's so many leaders that are here in the audience, and they're in companies, and they ask all the time, what's the best way for us to accelerate AI and get the whole organization? Is this something you recommend, doing it that way, thinking about it that way?
I do. And the problem with when someone says, again, this is not an insult to anyone in technology, but when it's in technology, it's part of a conversation. The person is at every single meeting I have with management teams, is part of every conversation, and the way to accelerate it, first of all, we have people coming out here all the time, all the time. just to stay on top of what you're doing. We have investments in 100 different companies out here. We're testing and learning. We don't mind failing and things. We test all the clouds, but having it there, put it this way, every time we meet, at every detailed meeting, so it could be like a small business credit card, it could be the movement of money, or it could be how we do swipes, or it could be sales and trading, FX in Vietnam. We have people saying, what can AI do to do that better? And I think you probably know, we actually use you guys to do, when we move all that money around the world, very often people want it in a certain place, and they want it in a certain currency, and this is now being done by AI. Databricks systems, I think we call it BRIE internally, to deliver the money that you want and the currency you want, at the price you want in a certain place. So, but the hard part is just review it every time. So there's no meeting that we don't say, what are we doing? What are you doing? Do you understand it? We opened up internal documents. We have 200,000 people using LLM on our internal data. So not this is not LLMs on the web. And the internal data the companies have probably dwarfs some of the stuff you have on the web. And it's very specific. Where you shopped and what you bought and what you did and how you spend your money and where you travel, what restaurants you like to eat at. So we're allowing people to use that internal, and we're constantly dumping more data into that. So started thinking with emails and just reviewing legal documents and things like that. But now you're going to get more and more data that could be analyzed inside. And eventually, because the data warehouse, data lakes you guys do, we can analyze this data, both internal data and external, without leaking the internal, which we can't do. We're just prohibited for a whole bunch of different reasons. So.
Yeah, it makes sense. How important is this data? Can you have, is AI and data kind of separated, or you really need, a great foundation? And, we're so fortunate to have you guys as customers.
Yeah. The hardest part's the data, which
Yeah.
It isn't the AI. It's not the machine learning, it's not the generative AI. It's getting your people to use it properly, but it's the data. So we have data, and not because we're dumb, but these companies were tons of mergers over time. So there's credit card data, there's credit card risk data, there's sales and trading data, there's consumer data, there's auto data, there's tons of FICO and credit score data. I mean, I forgot the number, but it dwarfs everything. So getting the data in the form that it could be usable is the hard part, and you guys have cracked a lot of that code because it's in different formats and different, if someone's hardwired in Exadata and some was, in the relationship databases, and some was completely unstructured, like just conversations that people had or, on call center, something like that. But now we're being able to access all of them to do a better job.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And, I have to say, I'm very, very impressed just seeing how JP Morgan Chase organizes everything. I think it's just, you guys invest a lot in getting things right in the foundation. Yeah. And, that took many, many years. And, the push to the cloud, all of these things have taken many, many years. That's why you can move fast now and reap those benefits. But I have to say, personally, also for me, I think also you push, top down in your organization as well. And I see that lacking in some other large organizations. There's lots of fiefdoms and lots of different folks that are pushing their own, we got to do it this way, no, we got to do it that way, and then there's a stalemate. Yeah. So it's super, super impressive to see. Yeah. I'm curious if this has something to do with, you've seen many tech waves, in your career, starting with the mainframe, to the cloud, and now AI. What have you learned from these tech waves? And is there anything we can apply to this one that's coming now? Are there any similarities or any differences?
Yeah, well, if you read history, I'm going way back now, tech is the thing that changed mankind. We were hunter-gatherers until you had agriculture. Agriculture created cities and specialties, and then you had electricity and water and the internet, and all these technologies, and then I don't consider the iPhone an invention because it's really 80 inventions put together in a beautiful piece of thing. How they roll out, they will roll out. They do change the world. They cause so many things you don't understand. Cars created suburbs, or shopping malls, or it just rolls through. There's a cosmological constant. It's always coming. The pace of it is different. The internet was invented. My brother worked at the Fermi Labs, and I remember visiting him in 1975 or something like that, looking at those little squiggly green screens. That was the ARPANET. And it was these big universities sharing data on experiments they were doing at the Fermi Labs to Niels Bohr Institute in Denmark or something. So it's coming. It'll all change everything. And we've always said you got to make it part of your life. So I've always had technology at the table. I've always had them part of the management teams. I've always had our people have to be, tech people have to be business literate. They got to understand your problems. Business people have to be tech literate. I don't have to understand how a lithium battery works. I don't have to understand exactly how your super agents work. I have to understand what they can do so I can deploy it. It's like the army using the weapons you have or something like that. So this one is faster. I mean, this one is faster. It's immediate. It's moving very quickly. I don't even know what it's going to do that much. I do know, my view is, don't spend much time debating it. Don't talk about whether you need large language models or small ones. We use data, AI, to hedge our equity books. So every second, and I'm talking about split seconds, when we move money, we're doing 6,000 movements of money in a split second. And you can't run an LLM model against that. But you can use much more confined data, which is doing AI in much smaller models, and you just got to get good at it. Don't put your head in the sand. I know a lot of companies are worried about it. What are they going to tell their people? What I tell their people is, we are going to be the best at AI. Large models, small models, this cloud, that cloud, just use technology to do a better job. If you don't, you'll be left behind. There may be winner take all in certain categories. I also don't want to be arrogant about it. JP Morgan's ahead of a lot of people. On the other hand, you guys are going to be able to deploy your, as a competitive matter, my competitors will get it from other people too. And then, people who serve smaller banks, they're going to use your stuff and deliver it to them. So, all the competitors will have it. It isn't like you're going to be the only one with these weapons, but maybe being first matters a lot in terms of having data. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be hard. This will change a lot. And the other thing about jobs, it is what we learned like in a call center. I thought, oh God, go to a credit card call center. People spend $1 trillion a year on our credit card. And that will employ data, it'll just change the calls. It doesn't work like that. You have to deploy it on a task, at least so far.
Yeah.
And when you're deploying that task, you can deploy it on another task. And it works on that task. It will reduce jobs and make our lives easier. But I tell people, we have in operation centers and call centers, 150,000 people, but the turnover is 15 or 20%. So I look at attrition as being your friend. If we know it's going to change, and then we can retrain and redeploy people. So a lot of those people are very talented. They know our client base, or they can upskill. So a lot of things you can do that can take care of your people. We are going to take care of our people. And the other thing about AI, it's going to be used by bad people. We know that. Just so we're cars, planes, pharmaceuticals. So you need some kind of understanding of that. But the thing that scares me the most is on cyber. And I've heard literally in the last week or two, we spend almost $1 billion a year in cyber protection, just in the last week or two, about how people are using agents to try to penetrate major companies. And that's scary stuff. And so we have to really make sure we protect ourselves. And there are bad guys already using it. And of course, we're trying to use it to combat them. So.
But it's also true with all technology.
All technology,
right?
yeah.
It's just this one maybe is faster.
This is faster, and cyber. The thing about cyber is, I tell people, like when you talk about warfare now, it's here. It's in our computers. It's in our skies. It's in our satellites. In our wireless. I don't think a lot of Americans realize how bad cyber is. Just that as an act of war. I'm not talking about ransomware.
Can I ask about that? If you're talking about cyber, right? Privacy, security attacks. You guys are highly regulated. You're a bank. You're extremely important to the whole planet. What are you doing about protecting yourself? And is there anything AI can do here to even help, or does it just hurt us?
Yeah. So cyber is the only part of the company where I tell people it's a police state. We're going to put in rules, and you have to follow them. From changing your passcodes to who can access systems to what you can do when you're outside of our private networks and then you're right, legally, and we have to deal with regulators in 100 countries, and they'll have different rules and regulations. We have to follow those. But legally, fundamentally, we can't sell our data, okay? And we have to protect our data. And when our data goes out, which sometimes it does, sometimes the customer can send the data out, we still have to protect it in a million different ways, from encryption to watermarking to... And the other thing is our government, like my regulators, are not nearly as protected as we are. And when they come they all want to do penetration testing us. I mean, they don't know how to do it. And they ask us, show us your weak spots. And I say, well, I'm going to send you my weak spots, and it's going to go into your unsecured database. and how much I'm not going to do. So cyber, everything we do, everything we rolled out, I think we probably use 100 companies to help us protect cyber, network segmentation, data segmentation, air gapping certain systems. It's everything we can possibly do. We work with the CIA and the FBI and the NSA as best we can, and I think they're doing a much better job at that. So we're fully engaged in this one. But this one is, when I deal with people, I tell them, this one is the most important for us, bar none. The other thing about us, and this is true maybe for a lot of your companies out there, we're hooked into 600 exchanges around the world. We're hooked into the Fed wire, and we're hooked into the equivalent wires of central banks in 60 countries. And if you look at all these endpoints and exchanges and money movements, they're not all protected. And they don't all have our security. So we do third-party oversight, but even third-party oversight, it's once a year.
Wow.
It's not the same thing. So, if we find a weak spot somewhere, we often inform the government before they know what's going on with certain things about certain North Koreans or Chinese actors out there. This one's important. They our water supply, our communications, are some of the banks. If a bank went down, a major bank, and you don't know what the money is. I remember President Obama asked me years ago, well, what do I do? I said, you have to have a bank holiday. You would have no choice and try to recover the data. And we all have backed up data and all the things like that. But if I had to tell you all how many times the fail-safe systems didn't work in my life, almost every time.
Wow.
Because it didn't always anticipate what caused the problem. And maybe AI will help us do a better job of that. But
fingers crossed. I have to say, your security team is amazing, and it's been amazing partnering with you. You push us. It's you guys are paranoid.
I want to brag on one of my guys back here, Larry Feinsmith. We have teams that do nothing but look at all the stuff you guys are inventing and what you're doing and bringing back to the company. We invest in some of those. Obviously, we want to bank some of those. So. But it keeps us much smarter.
Yeah. So speaking of risks, there's so much talk about the race against China in AI. And are we ahead? Are they going to catch up? Can you be ahead? How should we be thinking about it? How do we ensure? Is it important that U.S. has leadership? And if so, how do we do that?
Well, it's a big question. American military leadership, in my view, is critical to the health of the future free and democratic world. And has provided this umbrella to all of our allies and all these companies. Even though when I travel around the world, we really piss them off. Just so you know, but they really appreciate that umbrella, and they're worried about it because they see all this stuff. So yes, it's very important. It's a little embarrassing that we as a nation. You can blame businesses, you can blame the military, you can blame the government. I hate crying over spilled milk, that we allowed 100% of our penicillin to come from China. All these rare earths that you read about, but there's more than that. And yes, we should be a technological leader. You do not want to give them the 2 nano-centimeter chips or whatever, nano chips that can make their supersonic missiles better. Now, I think if you stop doing that, by the way, it won't be forever. So in other words, you can slow them down, but they put huge effort in. When they want to do something, they put 50,000 engineers on it, and all the universities and stuff like that. So, and they don't have to be a lifelong adversary. So I'm not saying we're at war with China, anything like that. But yes, we should protect ourselves and be very specific about those things that protect us. And obviously, technology is a big piece of that. They can get, they get some of the stuff you all do from. Because people sell to third parties, they're going to get it anyway. They're probably using Databricks inside China. I don't know if you're on any of those sanction lists or anything like that. But this is critical, and I look at it. And then our economic relationship. We have to maintain those two things to keep the world free and safe. And those are the two most important things. And will they have a recession next year? I don't consider that nearly as important. And so, I think we're doing a lot of the right stuff to do that. We should have started years ago. It's unfortunate. And for you all in the room, we don't have enough welders to build the boats that we need built. We never left, if there was war in the South China Sea, and this is not national security stuff because they published this, they did a tabletop exercise. We have missiles for 7 days. We'll be out of missiles in 7 days.
Wow.
And we don't have most of us have huge backup capabilities. We have everything backed up that we do, no matter what we do and where we do it. But they would make, I think this is right, making the missiles out of a plant. There was no second plant ready to go. So even if you pushed a button, you're talking about years before you get the second plant. We should not run the military that way. They also, and this has also changed, they have these big programs in the boats and the aircraft carriers, and technology may make, and you see the drone stuff in Ukraine, technology may make aircraft carriers obsolete. And we got to move quickly. So the military usually has to do contracts that be approved. But if you want to buy the best, newest drones, you want to go to Anduril, this company Voyager we took public yesterday, you have to allow the military to buy from you, cancel that, and buy from you, modify that, and like a business would, as opposed to it's got to be like a 20-year contract. So we have a lot to do. We have a thing we're going to do called the Defense Action Forum, kind of laying out all these issues, trying to help the government do a better job with them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, on that topic of the sort of arms race that's going on, when you look around the world, the economy, geopolitics, what worries you the most?
Yeah, it's what I'm about to say is not the ugly American, but America is indispensable. It's not indispensable because we're better. It's indispensable because we have the best military in the world, the most prosperous nation in the world, the best economy in the world, the best technology. The roots of that technology, the freedoms we have. It's what brought people here, and Sweden, right?
Iranian Swede.
Right. My grandparents were Greek immigrants who never went to high school. And we have to maintain that, but America's role is indispensable. That role is economic, it's military, it's education, it's allowing people, people that come here who want to stay here, like more merit-based, which we should be doing. That's the most important thing. And if you made a list of how does America stay indispensable, well, it's basically keeping our domestic economy strong. And here's where we haven't done a particularly good job, and maybe AI will fix. And I have a list. I make a list of all these policies we didn't do well. We don't do mortgage policies well. We didn't do immigration policies well. We don't do affordable housing policies well. We didn't do inner city school education well. We don't teach work skills properly. We didn't do the military properly. Healthcare, I was listening to one of the examples up here. I mean, the average family now costs $30,000 a year for healthcare. America is spending 18 or 19% of its GDP. We have among the best in the world. In which I'm a beneficiary of, the best hospitals, the best doctors, the best surgeons, best pharma, best medical devices, and among the worst. People are dying younger. There's too much obesity. We don't teach it in K to 12. It lacks transparency. And we got to get at this. And so to me, America should make sure that we're strong. And that strength also comes from celebrating our values and our virtues, and not insulting them all the time like we're bad. Yes, we did some terrible stuff, particularly the black community in this country. Absolutely, but the values and the virtues are the best the world's ever seen. People come here to be Americans, and it's the natural thing, freedom of speech and freedom of enterprise and freedom. When they said the pursuit of happiness, the founding fathers, they meant the pursuit of purpose. They didn't mean happiness the way we mean happiness. They mean you're building something. You're accomplishing something. That purpose could be teaching, it could be building, it could be being an entrepreneur, it could be just being a great parent or something like that. And those values and virtues, we've hurt. And right, like I always feel if you some of you all played in sports teams, if you have a sports team that's tearing itself apart, it will not win. Yeah, we're kind of doing that a little bit of that today. So I think that's keeping the nations indispensable also means keeping ourselves strong. And
super inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's super inspiring. It's energetic. The best way to accomplish change is to make it happen. If required from you 3.5 years from now, would you run for president?
All right. How many of you would vote for me? I get all the rich white people to vote for me, probably. But I am a banker. I'm 69. I always say I would love to be president, but you'd have to anoint me. I've never run for office. I think this is a skill. Now maybe I can have my campaign team be one of your agents and tell me what to do, what to say, and where to go. But I've never done that, so I think the answer is no. I will do anything to help the country, though.
Yeah. Okay, well, anything for the country, all right? We'll take that. Okay, so switching back to banking then, I'm very curious. In fact, I was meeting one of the CEOs of one of the big banks here, just a couple of years ago, and he told me like the best thing about our financial system is that the banks are, more robust than they have been ever. It's literally one of the CEOs, one of your, in one of the big banks. And the next day, SVB basically collapsed. And then we had the, First Republic, and which you guys bought, and so on. And you guys are sort of been in the middle of that. You bought, First Republic. You've been advising companies from small, medium, to large. I'm curious, what are you seeing? What are you recommending when it comes to this, financial sector?
Yeah. So first, we bought WAMU. I don't know if any of you were WAMU clients, but we're now the largest retail bank in California, the largest private bank in California, the largest commercial bank in California. We've built a whole new campus in Palo Alto, and we're covering now. We're doing a better job because we didn't realize that the bad job. You always have to be honest with yourself. Silicon Valley did a lot of things well. And now we're learning how to do that, move faster. We've had a campus in Palo Alto. We have 500 bankers doing the innovation economy, which I hope includes a lot of people in this room. And then we have some of our investment bankers here, doing bigger companies, from the biggest to small and stuff like that. And so huge investment, making a huge investment in San Francisco. Because California is, it's amazing. Every time I come out here, it kind of blows me away. I had a dinner last night with a bunch of CEOs and all the things they're doing. So the financial system is extremely strong. That will never mean that every company is. And the regulations, which I won't bore you with, but what Silicon Valley Bank did in First Republic was irresponsible. I would never have allowed it. It was basically interest rate exposure. And so we bought First Republic. We hedged all the interest rate exposure within 2 days.
Wow.
And the hard part of a First Republic is, we had to take 10,000 people literally working on future-looking stuff, and now they have to look backward-looking stuff. Is consolidating all the systems: HR, finance, tech, databases, customers, legal, all the systems. It's a lot of hard work. We kind of assimilated in a year. We learned a lot from it. There were some very good people there, so you always learn a lot from when you do something like that. But the system is sound. I think what they really should do is, and this people should always do, take a step back, take a deep breath. Regulators become like whack-a-mole. We have GSIB and CCAR and SLR and Basel II and Basel III and Basel IV, and it's getting crazy. And the worst part to me is what happened with First Republic and Silicon Valley Bank. It didn't have to happen. So, it's typical. Sometimes you overdo things over here, you miss things over here, and I think we can make the system better, safer, stronger, and more flexible. That should be their goal. And and then a lot of what they do has all these unintended consequences, which you all read about. Mortgages out of the banking system, private credit, leveraged loans. 50% of the bank, which is fine. I don't mind competition. Did they intend for that? And I'll give you one bad one. This won't affect you. We've gone from 8,000 public companies to 4,000 over the last 30 years. It should have been 8,000 to 16,000. Going public is expensive, litigious, costly. The reporting requirements are high, cookie cutter boards, cookie cutter compensation, cookie cutter this. So companies avoid it. And is that the right thing? Because I think you'd have a better system, and Sweden does it. One of the benefits by being JP Morgan, you can see the world. They've created a small, think of $1 billion company, $500 million, that can go public, that people want to invest in, that's got sponsored research with less reporting requirements, less costly SEC type of things. And it's caused a vibrant equity business there. And I think we should go back to doing something like that and just make it easier if that's the way you need to raise capital. You guys don't have to do that. Some people don't have to. Some need it, and some want to for a whole bunch of different reasons. But yeah, I think we just make the system better.
Yep.
And it's a shame. What you don't want 2 banks failed, and the whole world, was going hysterical, breathing over this thing. And I could have told you it was going to happen. And I'm not hysterical at all. And if rates go up, I always tell the regulators, we're prepared for rates going to 8% or something like that, or 9%. We'd still be fine. But I've always told them, but you wouldn't be fine. You're not prepared for it. And so I guess it's a risk management thing. We always look at risk management, not guessing the future, but laying out the wide range of possibilities and then studying, can you handle that? And in fact, I know our CFO is looking at one of your guys' things, we call stress testing, to see how he can use some of your agents to do a better job on certain stress testing. But the Fed has us do 1 stress test a year. We do 100 a week. I mean, literally, I could care less about their stress tests.
Yeah, so I got to ask you, if you look at the economic outlook right now, what are you seeing? What's going to happen with rates? What's going to happen with inflation?
I have never, and I've gone on Chat 4.0 and asked this question, by the way, so feel free to do it yourself. I mean, no one can answer the question. I do think 20 years from now, 50 years from now, you're going to have a huge cockpit like you have here, huge screens, constantly monitoring what people are doing, what they're spending, what they're growing in bursts and traveling and weather, and constantly adjusting the economy to keep it growing at maximum speed. Today, it's not possible. I mean, what we do today is like bleeding the patient. A little stimulus, raise rates, cut rates, and it literally is guessing, and I have never seen people pick the inflection points. But what I'm worried about, and I don't worry, JP will be fine regardless, there are a lot of moving parts today. And there are a lot more unknowns, a lot of things that I call them the tectonic plates are moving. You got these geopolitical situation, Ukraine and Russia, terrorism against Israel, what's going to happen with Iran. And that's not the only ones. There are other ones out there. You got the cyber issues. You have huge global deficits. Ours is the largest, but it's almost everywhere. And government debt is higher than it's ever been everywhere. Even post-war, for post-World War II. And now you have tariffs, kind of a fragmentation of the global military economic situation. A lot of countries are rearming. I think they should, but it's unfortunate. And I'm talking about Japan, Korea, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam. You're going to have a lot of European countries, a lot of moving parts. And it's really hard to tell how that all sorts out. You have the tax bill, which may or might happen. If it happens, there's a lot of stimulus in that bill that happens in the first couple of years. So the world, if you look at the world, it's kind of, and this is my view, I could be dead wrong, it's kind of complacent. We're kind of, prices are high, and we're kind of been this soft landing now for a long time. And there's a general assumption, which is priced in the market, that it'll continue. And I'm a skeptic, and I've been around long enough to know that those things are hard to predict. Does it have to get really bad? No, but could it? Yeah, it could.
So many things could go wrong. Hopefully AI is the thing that sort of is deflationary and can automate things and make it better.
Yeah. But it won't be deflationary yet. I mean, if you look at, we're spending $2 billion. We actually can, on some of the stuff we're doing, we know we're getting benefit of approximately $2 billion in total on cost saves or productivity enhancements or things like that. But if you look at the amount of money, even if you haircut, look, the chips are getting faster and cheaper, and there may be optical chips that get better down the road, but power costs aren't going down. The cost of land isn't going down. The cost of structures isn't going down. The cost of inferencing is dropping dramatically, and you guys will find a million ways to reduce costs. But my own view is in the next couple of years, we're going to be spending a lot more money. We need more lumber and more cement and more steel and more grids and more gas plants and maybe one day nuclear plants. And so it will be deflationary, just not quite yet.
Okay, all right, so we got to rush through this and get to that inflection point faster then, I guess. Okay, I know we're out of time, but I got to, if I have a great leader, I got to, take the opportunity to ask you. I saw that leaked recording where you said, people got to get back into the office, they're on their phone, it's disrespectful, and, most CEOs, we were cheering, saying, yes, finally someone is saying the truth. I am curious, any general leadership advice? How do you get your organization to, you said, in every conversation, AI is at the front, we're thinking about it, about everything we're doing. How do you instill that, and how do you build this next generation of leaders, and how do you make sure that they're doing the right thing with the challenges that we have with our ADHD and our phones and work from home?
A constant and honest assessment of everything. So your own people, most people, I've seen these guys, they don't get their P&Ls right, how they structure it right, they bullshit about where they make money. Okay to have lost leaders, but companies, you can call them strategic business units or however you call it. Do you understand what's driving, what's motivating? But the constant assessment is also from the customer standpoint. You're all customers. I need to know what you think, what you like. I go talk to any one of you about if you use Chase, and you might tell me your friend uses HSBC or Chime or Venmo, and they do this better. with constant assessment around the world. I once sent a whole plane load of people in our consumer business to China. It was like 12 years ago. They said, what are we going to China for? I said, you'll find out when you get there. And we hooked them up with Ping An, Tencent, Alipay, Alibaba, and it opens your eyes. You have to do it. When management teams are too busy to come to Silicon Valley, they're not going to be learning. They're sitting in their office, they're hearing what they're hearing. So it's customers, it's assessment, it's talking to your regulators, it's a deep honesty, and that's analytics, detail, repeat, rinse, full assessment all the time. Then you got to have real discipline around that, which is, we have real reviews of businesses but heart and humanity, meaning people don't want to work for jerks, and when you become a senior person, it's amazing, you don't know that much. I have to call, if I want to know about, data lakes, and I have to talk to Larry back here and have him explain it to me. If I want to know about, FX trading in Indonesia, I got to call an expert in that. And so there's a humility around that about what do they know, how do you know it? They have to be free to speak up. You have to create an environment where people feel treated with trust and respect, and they can contribute to the company to the best of their ability, whatever. They could be white, they could be black, they could be LGBT. We have special programs for disabled, neurologically disabled, veterans, but they're very shy people. You have to go out of your way to get the best of the people, and it's amazing when you do what it does for a country, a university, a company, and you create that environment. You have to, in some ways, in a nice way, you should fire the assholes. It only takes a few of them to destroy a meeting, But I hate to say this, sometimes those assholes include customers. I have fired customers because they are so rude to our people, and I tell our people that if I allow that to happen, just think of what you think, and just take your energy and put it to someone who actually wants your benefits. And so openness, you got to have a little bit of grit. It's hard, these jobs are hard. You have to. Answers to problems are waiting to be found. So my general reaction, when something's going wrong, I get all the people in the room, we work it over and over and over and over. I'm not guessing. And usually the answer is found.
Yeah.
By just working the problem over and over, and promote people who are open like that, who like to get on the road, who like to deal with people, review customer complaints, set up war rooms around them. Let young people, sometimes I'll just let them do it. just go fix it, And it's amazing what people can do. So it's a wide range of stuff. That return to the office thing, some people, I think I leaked it. I didn't. I answered a question honestly about how it was being abused, and misused. And it's hard to do management by Hollywood squares. Because I can have a real honest conversation with you. I'm sitting in front of you, but when I have 12 people in Hollywood squares, and I didn't realize that people are looking at their phones while they're doing it. I didn't. So the iPad. I still look at paper sometimes, but a lot of people have their iPads in there, and your notifications are coming up, your emails are coming up. You're not paying attention. When you're with me, you get 100% of my attention, 100% of the time, and I've done the whole pre-read every single time, and you're always learning stuff like that. So I think you have to have certain disciplines or you lose, when you have it, it's like also that management teams have to work. You can't run a company, you can't run any part of a company and think you can retire in place. When Tom Brady or Simone Biles, you talk to them about their discipline and effort, it's not just the game, it's in practice. It's in reviewing the films. It's in learning new stretches, and if you want to be a winner in this world, you've got to give it your all. And then you can't. There's nothing wrong with you. You shouldn't be the boss anymore.
That's amazing. Super inspirational, Jamie Dimon. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, folks. Good luck to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good. Thank you.